Hello everyone, I'm SoloBase15 and this is Faction of the Week. This series is going to be an in-depth look at the various factions that you're going to use during Grand Arena or Territory Wars. For those of you that don't know, I've now started the Gambit podcast with Zareth, and every week on that podcast we're going to pick a faction of the week. This series will take that faction of the week and go a little more in depth and explain how to use it and why to use it. This week's faction is going to be Rebels, and more specifically it's going to be the CLS Trio of Commander Luke Skywalker, Original Trilogy Chewie, and Raid Han. We're going to take an in-depth look at this team and see how you can use only these three members on attack and maximize your banners by getting the undersized win. So let's start this off with their leader, Commander Luke Skywalker. I'm going to take you through his abilities, how I mod him, and then we'll show him in action. So his first ability up is Destined Strike. The Rebel faction in this game usually isn't known for their debuffs, but as we go through these basic abilities, you're going to see one constant theme. That's the basic applies a debuff, and in most cases can lead to stunning your opposition. And that's going to become huge as you're fighting 3-on-5 in most of these battles. So this Destined Strike ability, it applies speed down and defense down. And then the Omega gives it the ability to stun your opponent if they already had defense down, or steal 30% turn meter if they already had speed down. So this is already setting it up to be a control type of team. CLS's second ability is Use the Force, and this is how you're going to get around taunting tanks. Because what he does is he dispels all buffs, including a taunt. He applies buff immunity so tanks can't get taunt. And then he removes 100% turn meter, taking away their next turn. Luke's third ability is Call to Action. And this is where he dispels all debuffs on himself. He heals himself, he gives himself extra protection, and he switches stances. And we'll talk about the stances with his next ability, which is actually his unique, Learn Control. Learn Control is Luke's starting ability, and this is more of a defensive stance. He has 50% counter chance, he has an extra 50% crit avoidance, it has 50% defense, 100% tenacity, so he's not going to have debuffs applied to him, and then he gains 10% turn meter whenever another rebel ally takes damage. This is going to be huge when you mix it with the rest of his kit, and then Chewie and Han's as well. It Binds All Things is Luke's second stance, and in this stance he has increased potency, he regains health and protection when he resists a detrimental effect, and he gains turn meter whenever he inflicts a debuff. Now Luke's leadership ability gives rebels 50% counter chance, 50% defense, 15% offense, and they gain turn meter whenever an enemy resists a detrimental effect. And remember, with this trio, all three members are applying detrimental effects on their basics. So they're going to be constantly either applying debuffs or gaining turn. So let's take a look at how I have CLS modded. You can see here I have an offense set, and then I'm giving him a little extra protection because with a 3-on-5 you want to give him some survivability. My secondary set wasn't matching, and you can see here it's because I wanted to give him extra speed. But the main stat that I'm going for with this build is his offense, because I want CLS hitting hard. Now adding G13 to CLS increased his potency, so I don't need to worry about that as much. You used to want to add potency to him to give him the ability to apply debuffs, but his finisher really helped out with that. Next up is Chewbacca. You'll see here that my Chewie is gear 13, but in the clips you're going to see as a part of this video, he was only G12. Looking at his first ability, you're going to see he applies tenacity down. So his basic is going to help Han and CLS apply their debuffs on their basic. Chewie's second ability is his AoE, and this is going to ignore defense while also granting Chewie offense up and crit chance up, and dispelling all of the buffs that the other team has. Chewie's third ability is going to be Furious Bowcaster, and on this ability he's going to be able to stun one of the opposing team members, and more importantly, if that team member didn't have protection, it's going to reset the cooldown on his AoE. That leads us into Chewie's first unique ability, Loyal Friend. And this is the ability that allows you to run this team as a trio, because it applies guard to Han Solo and Chewie's weakest ally. And when you're only going in with 3, that means it's automatically applied to CLS too. And guard means that you can't be critically hit, and they're immune to daze and stun, which is huge when you're going in 3v5. And more importantly, you're gaining 3% health back and protection back every time Chewie does damage, which is going to be how you are going to recover health and protection and guarantee you at least 60 but up to 62 banners. Finally, Loyal Friend has Chewie assist anytime a guarded ally takes a turn. That means on every basic attack and every special attack by CLS or Han, they're doing double damage because Chewie is coming in with his attack. Chewie's Raging Wookiee unique basically is there to make him hit hard, and it makes him Nihilus proof because he's immune to cooldowns. So let's look at how Chewie's modded. And you can see here I went offense. Pure offense. And the reason for that is he's stacking offense thanks to Raging Wookiee, and he's going often thanks to his assists. So he doesn't need to be as fast as the rest of the team because he'll be constantly attacking anyway. This team, and specifically Chewie, really benefit from 6Eing your mods because of all the extra offense. You can see here that my Chewie still has 100 speed, but he's got over 2200 added offense, and so he's going to hit hard when he assists. That brings us to our final character, Han Solo. When looking at his basic, you can see it's dependent on the other opponent's turn meter. Less than 50% turn meter, he's dealing a ton more damage. More than 50% turn meter, he's going to reduce their turn meter. His second ability, Deadeye, is going to stun your opponent and give Han turn meter equal to his crit chance. So you're going to want to load up crit chance on Han Solo. Han's final ability gives crit chance up and evasion to the rest of his team, gives him crit damage up, and he's able to gain 50% turn meter off it. Han's unique is where the fun really is. Gives him an increased counter chance, increased crit chance up. It allows him to have a second attack on his basic, and most importantly, it gives him the Han Shot First ability of shooting first in the game no matter what the speeds of the opponents are. So it lets you take control from the very start. Unlike the other two on this team that have offense sets, Han really benefits from a crit chance and crit damage set because of all the benefits he gets with the added crit chance. So here you'll see I have 220% of crit damage because his crit damage triangle is 6E, and then his crit chance is at 65%, plus the 20% from his unique, plus he grants himself crit chance up, bringing it over 100. So let's look at this team in action now. And the first team I'm going to show you a video of is against the Qi'ra-led Scoundrels team without Nest, but it does have Newt. So what are the things that you have to worry about on these Qi'ra teams? First is her leadership ability, where they regain protection for every crit hit. And L3 is their tank, who's a very good tank this game, and more importantly, she is going to counter, which is going to constantly revive her protection. The second worry you really have is on Vander Chewbacca. He is going to, when he gets prepared, revive a teammate. So normally you want to revive or kill him before he gets prepared. Unfortunately, in this match, you'll see that I wasn't able to do that, and I took out L3, but L3 is going to be revived. Now, CLS is so overpowered that's really not going to matter. The good thing about facing this Qi'ra team is they really don't have an offensive threat. They have young Han, but he's not Zetaed, so he's not going as often as he should be. And so you can see here I was able to take out L3 eventually, and then the team is just a bunch of sitting ducks. I took out Qi'ra next because she's the next biggest threat. And then I just start working around the team a little bit, where I'm going to eventually end up just taking out Vandor Chewie, since he's got prepared and I don't want to kill somebody twice again. And as you can see here, it took about 2 minutes, but this team is going to finish with 62 banners against a quite annoying team that you're going to see regularly in GAs. That 62 banners is going to be a theme on why you want to use this team on offense, because you can really pick up bonus points with them. So let's look at them against a First Order team that's fairly strong. It's a missing First Order officer, but the same result would happen if he was there. Target him first, and he'll basically be taken out of the game before anyone else takes a turn. Now with this team, you don't want Unmasked Kylo gaining his taunt. So use CLS to take away his taunt if he's Zetaed, and give him buff immunity so he can never taunt again. Then take out First Order officer, and your next biggest threat is going to be Fox. Take him out because he's going to be the damage dealer on this team. Now, First Order has the unique ability under the KRU lead of regaining their protection whenever they get buff or debuff. So these last two, and specifically Masked Kylo, will take a little time to take down. But as you can see here, in total I'm spending less than a minute and a half, and I'm going to finish with max banners because there's nothing that they can do to really make a dent on this CLS team. And so once again, we're going to finish with 62 banners and an easy win. This next fight I'm showing is a Phoenix team that started with Leia. I was able to take her out in one shot with Han's opening move. And next I took out Kanan to stop any counters that they have. This fight is going to be over quickly, but I'm just using it to show how strong just the trio is. Because I'm beating G11 and G12 characters in this Phoenix squad with no problem. And again, the fight ends with 62 banners. Now, this final video I'm going to show you, I lost 2 members, but it was a full Geo team. Most of them were G12. The only one that wasn't was Brood Alpha, because he didn't have the 7-star Brood Alpha. I brought in Chase just to give a little extra healing, hoping that that would help. But you'll see the trio themselves actually hold up quite well, while Chase, I'm going to lose them in this battle because they don't have enough to withstand the mass Geo attacks. So I don't advise using this team if you run into the Geonosians, just because you're going to lose 2 characters if you do. But if you're in a bind and you had to use Traya early on in the match, you can see that they're able to withstand the Geo attacks. At least the trio is. And they actually finish with almost max protection as well, which is surprising because the one thing about CLS and, well, the trio being G13 is if you bring a 4th and 5th member onto the squad, CLS is going to lose the guarded. So he's going to be stunned. He's not going to gain the protection back from Chewie when he does damage. He's going to lose the benefits, but CLS is such a strong character, like you can see here, that it really doesn't matter in this fight that he lost the guard. One thing I will say is if the Geos are G13, I wouldn't use this CLS combination. So that's going to bring this first Faction of the Week segment to the close. I'm trying to keep these videos under 15 minutes so you can get all the information you need. and not waste too much time on them. Thank you for staying with me for the full 15 minutes. I have included down below the links to the counter spreadsheet that Zareth and I are working on and our first podcast page. Next week, I'm going to focus on the Jedi Knight Revan faction. Specifically, I'm really going to focus in on them countering General Grievous and what you need to handle the G13 Grievous team. Thank you for staying with me, and I will talk to you again next week.